Hey guys, I'm gonna do a quick review over your lymphatic system for your test today. Going through this flow chart. I will post a picture of this when we're all said and done if you can't make out everything that I've written down in here. So our two things we're testing over is the lymphatic system and the immune system. They work together, but they are different. The lymphatic system is anatomy, and it consists of the lymph nodes and lymph vessels and accessory organs. Your immune system is all over the body, and it's how your body responds when it's sick from some kind of pathogen. So they are different, but they work together. So let's start with the lymphatic system. It's pretty simple. It basically consists of a whole bunch of different lymph vessels. Your lymph vessels travel all around the body. It's kind of like a circulatory system, but instead it's a circulatory system filled with lymph. And lymph is basically just a fluid. And this fluid was created because it was forced out of your bloodstream due to hydrostatic pressure, basically pressure of liquid. It was forced out. So it's basically came from your blood, but we call it lymph once it leaves the bloodstream. So it's kind of like plasma. And then remember, this little check system of lymph is the extra security line at the airport where your body is making sure everything is good to go and it's not sick. So lymph vessels, they return the blood back to the heart one of two ways depending where it's coming from the body. If it's coming from your right side, it's going to the right subclavian artery. Subclavian duct. If it's coming from the left side of the body, like your left arm, for example, it's going to dump into the thoracic duct. Why they're not both subclavian, I don't know, but that is basically how the lymph vessels bring it back to the heart once it's gone through its extra security check. These are all accessory organs of your lymphatic system. So your lymph nodes. We also have our Peyer's patches. Those are located in the intestines. We have our tonsils located in the throat. Your thymus right above the heart. Your spleen. And I'm going to put the appendix here in parentheses. Sometimes it's included as a lymphatic organ, and sometimes it's not. Of these guys, the two I want you to remember especially are these two, that they are both considered MALTs, mucus-associated lymphatic tissues. Basically it means they produce mucus and they trap sticky things. All right. That's about it as far as the lymphatic system goes. Pretty simple stuff. This is an extra security check for anything suspicious, perhaps, even though the rest of the circulatory system is just flowing through, getting checked. The fluid in here gets an extra pat down by your system. Now, the immune system is all over here. The first thing to know about the immune system is we have our innate defenses, basically the automatic ones. And those are considered our first and second line of defense. What is important about both of these, so this is innate and this is innate, is it's super fast. It's the first thing that responds to any infection, but it's also not specific, so it's non-specific. So it will take care of anything, but it won't necessarily fight off a very, very specific invader. The first line of defense is your unbroken skin and all of your holes protections. So if you don't have a cut, okay, your skin is an awesome line of defense. Your notes also go through quite a few other ones of those first lines of defenses. These are just some of the old notes. Up here, okay, our first line of defense, we got our skin, right, mucous membranes, and then all of those secretions as well. Good thing just to look over briefly. That's all included in your first line of defense. Your second line of defense is going to include, excuse me, all of those things that fight off invaders if it gets through your unbroken skin. So we have phagocytic cells, your neutrophils and macrophages that wander around and eat things, the NK, natural killer cells. They're the ones that are going to do a little stabby stab in anything that looks suspicious, maybe cells that have been cancerous or cells that are basically waving a white flag saying, please kill me, I've been infected. Inflammation is another line of defense. Remember, inflammation is your body's way of healing. It's going to increase redness because there's extra blood flow in the area. That extra blood flow is going to encourage more of those neutrophils and macrophages to show up. It's going to be hot and red because of the extra blood flow to the area, but it's in general a sign of healing, encouraging other cells to the area. Those phagocytic cells get called to it through diapedesis and chemo stasis. We had a nice little graphic here where we discussed kind of how your body calls in the troops to help out when there is inflammation going on. And then we also have antimicrobial proteins. These guys are super duper important as far as helping out. The three main ones I want you guys to remember is the complement. This complement system is pretty complicated, but this was that Mac Daddy. This is where it's going to cause the cells to put a hole in themselves, and it basically makes them sort of blow up or lyse if that is to happen to a cell. So this is the little picture here, okay, of the complement system. Our membrane attack complex causes water to rush in, and it causes the cell to lyse. The other ones that are important to remember are interferons. These are little proteins sent out if a cell is infected, and it's meant to warn the neighbor cells that it is sick. So it's sending out a signal saying, I'm sick, watch out. There might be something coming for you. That's a last-ditch effort. And then the pyrogens. Pyrogens are super important. Pyro, fire. These are the ones that are going to cause your body to develop a fever. A fever is another one of these lines of defenses. Basically, it will help denature proteins, increase the zinc production in your cells. Well, to hoard, basically, zinc to fight off any infections. We went over all of that on the innate body defenses here. Okay, all those things that the fever does for you. All right. So those are our innate lines of defense. They're non-specific, but they're fast. They're the first things that help fight and try to keep you healthy from infection. Now, when we get sick and we move to our third line of defense, this is called the adaptive defense. And adaptive defenses are slow. The first time, it takes about 7 days before they actually kick in when you do get sick, but they are specific. It also is important because it doesn't forget. It remembers it forever. And so we call this basically your immunity, because you fight off an infection and your body can remember it forever. So there's two main groups, ways that it's adaptive. We have cell-mediated and humoral. The one with the B cells is humoral. The B cells wander around in your blood, there's different types of B cells, our memory B cells, and the plasma B cells, or just plasma cells. Why they are important is because they make antibodies. Remember, antibodies are the good guys that fight off antigens, the bad guys. And there's different types. You don't have to, for the test, memorize all of the differences between these, but just remember which ones are, like, actually are antibodies. So just remember G-MEAD, M-E-A-D. And different antibodies respond to different things. If they're trying to decide if you're sick with something, they look at different antibodies to find out maybe what you're fighting off. And then your T cells, they are in the cell-mediated response because the T cells can go in and kill your own cells that are infected. B cells, antibodies attack antigens. And so the humoral immunity is against free-floating antigens or foreign substances in your bloodstream. The cell-mediated response fights your own cells that are infected, and your T cells will basically kill any of your cells that are infected. The main killer are the cytotoxic T cells. They stab, they're the stabby ones that stab the cell membrane of a cell in order to poke a hole in it, basically, and cause it to lyse. You also have the memory T cells, so TM for memory. You have the regulatory T cells, TR, and then your TH, the helper. Now, the helper T cells are super important because they help T cells and they help out B cells, not just memory B cells, I guess, but also regular B cells. They're really important because they are there to regulate this whole system. They mark people for destruction, basically, and identify those that need to go. One important thing about these cells is this word Immuno Competence. This word is referred to when the T cells are maturing and the B cells are maturing. B cells mature in the bone marrow, B for bone. T cells mature in the thymus, T for thymus. But basically what this means is this is where these cells, they learn who's who. They want to make sure that they are identifying the bad guys, but also they want to make sure that they are identifying you, and so they don't destroy yourself. So when we talk about them maturing, we're talking about Immuno Competence, where they mature and they're learning who to identify. If something goes wrong with this process, it can lead to an autoimmune disorder. Autoimmune disorders are when you attack yourself, and there's lots of different types. Type 1, diabetes. Is one. Graves' disease. This one is a problem with the thyroid gland. Rheumatoid arthritis. I'm going to just write RA. Was another one. And there's others listed. These ones maybe you want to remember because you might see them here in a minute. Autoimmune disorders aren't the only disorders, though, of our immune system. We can have hypersensitivities, which are also known as allergies. When you have a hypersensitivity or an allergy to something, your body is reacting to haptens, basically small foreign particles that are not harmful, but that your body thinks it is. And then the other type is an immunodeficiency. I'm going to spell this wrong. Sorry, guys. And this is basically where your immune system is compromised or it's not working as it should. The really common one that we're familiar with is AIDS. Also, I mentioned yesterday the bubble boy syndrome is immunodeficiency, but those are just some of the diseases. I think that covers most things that I wanted to review with you. Look through the rest of your notes. Make sure all your homework is in before you take the test. Good luck. Have fun. I miss you guys.